Let's move away from lies and fears.
Perhaps it's time to leave.
Free from how you look or what they say. Like a lion runs wild through the wilderness. Free from showing off a living fate. Like the eagles flying high, dancing with the air. There's breath in your lungs to breathe. Say, God, take this mask away. You see, he won't let you stay. Living in hollow days.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Shattercast. Today I have with me my friend
Joel.
and my other friend
Derrick.
and I'm your usual host John, and today we're going to talk about a new game that is coming out very soon. For us, for you, it's probably already out, and hopefully you know a lot more about it than we do right now. That game is Anthem, coming to us from BioWare Studios
BioWare.
and
EA.
EA.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
It's in the game. I remember that.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
that's like card
EA Sports. It's in the game.
See, that's what we call a jingle. Good job. Good job, EA.
All right, we got the one good thing EA has
Yes.
done.
No, they've done a lot of good things.
They have. Which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about learning from our mistakes. And we are hoping that not just EA, but even BioWare has had some problems in the past. BioWare,
That's true.
They do. BioWare has had some fantastic games. They had the Dragon Age series, Baldur's Gate. They've done a lot of great things. Mass Effect 1, fantastic. Mass Effect 2, fantastic. Mass Effect 3. They fixed it. They fixed it. And it was fantastic once they fixed it.
the best fix. It was fixed, you know.
Some people would have wished that they had just not had the ending in the first place, and then that game would have also been fantastic. And then Andromeda comes out.
You can't be perfect all the time.
You gotta move your face
I
like an Andromeda character. That's what you gotta do in Andromeda. Talk about that.
Okay. So here's the thing: when they released Andromeda, I feel like they were hoping to set up for another amazing trilogy. The Mass Effect trilogy wasn't the best storytelling, I think, in video game history, but it was, as far as the series as a whole, probably in most people's top 10 for storylines.
I thought it was great.
They made a great galaxy. Just the interaction of people. It was really good.
It was very, very good. And then Mass Effect Andromeda comes out. It fell flat for a lot of people. Some people liked it. It was very bland, in my opinion, the story. And Mass Effect Andromeda is the most recent game that BioWare has developed before Anthem. The thing about Anthem is there is no PvP. There is no player versus player combat in the game. There's no matchmaking like Destiny has Crucible, right? And so when Destiny first came out, you could get through the story in a single day if you played all day. I did it. But you at least had the PvP aspect, you had Crucible, you had all these things where you could fight with other people, and that was where a lot of the staying power was before they started releasing raids and other end game content that expanded the game. Anthem doesn't have the player versus player side to it, so we really need the story to carry us for a long time.
Please be good.
And here's my concern, and I think it's a very fair concern. BioWare, in their two most recent games, Mass Effect Andromeda and the ending of Mass Effect 3, has shown that they are not above making mistakes with storylines. So we only have the story in Anthem, and BioWare has been making mistakes with story. And so as excited as I am very hesitant. I haven't pre-ordered the game. I know I've played the demo we had last week, the beta we had this weekend. Derrick, I think you've done the same.
I played the demo as well.
Yeah. So what are some of your thoughts?
So let's start with the good, because we like good stuff. So the flying in the game is amazing. Just the way it controls everything. It feels like you're in Iron Man or the best Superman game you've ever played. Like the way you can hover, the way you can barrel roll.
That's not saying much.
Shots fired at Superman. And has Iron Man had a good? Whatever. Anyways, the flying is amazing. Really good. I like that it takes some skill or some time to master the skills. It took me, I think, John, you got the flying in like 5 minutes. It took me like an hour to figure out all the controls.
It's my youthful agility.
Oh, he just called me
His
old.
thumbs are small.
I've been around.
I'm not old, I'm just well preserved. Alright, so I like that it it takes a little while to learn kind of how to control it, the skills and stuff like that. But I think that's really good. I also like that you have different javelin styles. The suits that you have a big tanky one, you have kind of a ninja one, you have an all-around ranger one, and then you have like this mage kind of storm guy. So those are some of my favorite. What do you guys think about the game? And
I agreed. I think if you've played the demo, or if at this point you've played the game itself, I think a lot of the combat, the weapon side of combat feels a lot like the Division. The controls, I like you said, I really like the flight aspect. If they brought that to Destiny, I feel like that would fit very well in Destiny. It would do very well for that game. Whereas in the open world stuff in Destiny, you did feel very limited. Even though you had hover vehicles that you could just summon out of nowhere, you couldn't actually fly with them, which was a little strange. And so Anthem having that capability is quite nice, and it very much expands the game. I think, Joel, earlier you said that it helps the game soar to new heights.
Yes. I don't know, I feel like this game is really going to take off. But
they're really looking for sales going up and away.
They're really trying not to die like bomb with these sales, but we'll see what happens.
So with the flight mechanics, I was talking with the guys earlier, that there's some interesting things where your javelin can overheat when you're flying if you fly for too long. And there's a couple ways to stop that from happening. You can either dive from a great height and it cools your jets as you go down, or you can actually fly through a waterfall, which I thought it's a really neat mechanic that they thought of things like that.
Or I think when it's raining as well, it cools you down.
Yes,
really?
Yeah. And so there are some very promising mechanics. Mechanically, I enjoyed what I played, and I'm excited for the game. I just really need the story content to bring it. Please. So some of the concerns about EA owning the publishing of this game, we have in Battlefront 2 probably the most well-known, scandal might be too strong of a word, but I think scandal's probably good. Loot boxes in Battlefront 2, and they tried to say, well, I mean, yeah, you can pay and eventually unlock Yoda or Darth Vader, but you can also just play the game. And they did the math, and it takes like 2,000 hours of playing, which, by the way, is 8 hours a day. Full-time job. It's 40 hours a week.
If you have a job, go to school, or want to eat at all.
Yeah, like if you've ever done anything in the compensation field, you know that a full-time employee over the course of an entire year will work 2,080 hours, and you need to put in that much time in the game in order to get one character.
It's not my full-time job. Sorry, EA.
EA had some trouble there, and so it's a little concerning that they're backing Anthem. Now, here's the thing about that. Don't hold me accountable to this, but this is what I've read. If you're familiar with the gaming industry now, more and more games and studios are having what they are calling game changers. I play a mobile game, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and a lot of the game changers, they have insider information. They get access to characters before everybody else on playtesting accounts, and it's just a really cool way for them to sort of figure out mechanics and get people hyped up for different things. But they're not owned by the company. They're not, what we would call a corporate shill or something. They just get early access so that they can feed information to the community. There are game changers for Anthem, and we talked about this before the cameras went up, that right now there's kind of an embargo on the storyline. And that's why we're hesitant, because we don't know what the story is going to look like.
A little scary. Hopefully it works out.
Indeed. And one of those game changers, I think the website is Gamer Rant or Game Rant. I'm not really on that website very much, but they were releasing some information that they said is coming from EA. This game will not have loot boxes. There will be no pay-to-play whatsoever. There will be microtransactions, but they will be cosmetic only.
It's not surprising.
Me too. There's a very fun sort of top-down Diablo-style RPG that I play called Path of Exile, and their microtransactions are what they call ethical microtransactions. They're just cosmetic. So it's just a way to support the developer and make your character look a little different. but it gives you zero advantage over anybody else in the game. And that is what the developers of Anthem have said we'll see in this game. So that is encouraging. I don't have a problem if I really enjoy a game forking over $20 to have something super nice. Yeah, it's not going to be less than 20. You know that it's not going to be less than $20. On top of that, the cosmetics that you can buy, you can also earn in game just by playing the game. That being said, in Battlefront 2, you can also earn characters by playing the game, but as we just discussed, it's equivalent to a full-time job.
EA,
So
not my full-time job.
that doesn't give me a lot of hope, that specific point. But the one that does when it comes to story is there's no season pass for Anthem. And on top of that, all future story-based DLC is free and will be released to the entire community at the same time. They don't want different players not having access to the full game because of a paywall, which excites me.
That's pretty cool.
There's no season pass, and all future content added to the game will be completely free. I mean, that sounds pretty great.
It reminds me of Guild Wars 2. Once you buy Guild Wars 2, you only have to buy the expansions, but they do something called Living Story. So they keep updating the story, and as long as you log in while that story is ongoing, then you get it for free. Now, if you log in afterwards, then you have to pay a little something, but it's a way for them to expand the world without you having to pay a lot. So if Anthem's doing something similar to that, I'm all for it. It's really cool.
Yeah, same
Good job,
here.
Anthem.
Good job, Anthem. Good job. So with all of this in mind, we don't know much about the story because of this embargo on the information. However, the other things that the developers have said, BioWare and EA, about the story being free, the more DLC coming out, and it just being free to the community, it kind of lends itself to thinking maybe they learned from Battlefront 2.
Maybe.
A lot of people, I mean, what is it, the most downvoted comment in Reddit history was from the EA developers talking about loot boxes. It's got like 1 million downvotes. It's insane. You know, it's people, it was a big PR nightmare for EA when everything came to a head with Battlefront 2. But at the end of the day, a lot of their bottom line wasn't affected because people still pre-ordered the game, people still bought the game, and people didn't return the game. And so because of that, they still had their money, and a lot of people were concerned EA isn't going to learn their lesson. Well, here's the next big game that EA is releasing, Anthem. People are pre-ordering it, people are buying it, EA is getting money, and this is the time where we can find out, have they learned from that mistake? And if they haven't, I honestly don't have a lot of hope for them in the future. I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think a big corporation like EA could learn from that community backlash? Do you think they have? Are you, like me, are you cautiously optimistic about Anthem?
I think that I have hope for it. I think that they're getting to a point where it's not just, we've had like one bad like game, okay, it's just like one flop. When you get flop after flop, even though flop in terms of like fan love for it as opposed to like sales, I think like one of the hardest things is like, and I think it's true with whatever you buy, is like you are trusting that you're spending money on something because it will be good. And if they have integrity, which is questionable in some parts, then we would hope that they themselves would actually want to make a great game and not just push out money. Now, when it comes to a game like Star Wars, this may not be the most fun thing to say, but because it's so well known, it's a lot easier for them to make a shell of a game because they know it's already going to sell because it's a big name. Everyone knows about Star Wars.
It appeals to more than
make
just the
some
gamer
mistakes
crowd.
on it
Yeah.
and still make a lot of money.
Yeah.
With this newest game, they actually have to make it good.
It's got so much
They
new
have
IP.
to make it good.
Exactly.
Like,
That's
they
a
cannot mess
fantastic
up. And I have hope for it, and the main reason why is just because the game like plans like that, apart from it having to load every once in a while, is very smooth, and it looks like they really are trying to help out the fans. Now we will see if that comes to pass, but I think that I have hope where they're going, because I think that they're starting to realize that what they have been doing may not be the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah, and I think I have hope if, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, if they can learn from their mistakes. Not just their mistakes, other people's mistakes. This game, and we've done it here, has been compared a lot to Destiny. And Destiny, coming out the gates with Destiny 1, didn't have a big overarching story. And so that's one of the things we're talking about. Destiny 2 had more of a story, but they made a lot of changes that a lot of the community wasn't excited about. So if EA can learn from Destiny's mistakes, but also their own mistakes, they released this VIP demo, and then there's a lot of issues with people getting online, and it was an old build, so there was patch issues that need to be fixed, and so that's gotten them some bad publicity. So they have the opportunity now to say, hey, here's what our game's going to be like. If they can turn that around, there's a chance. Word of mouth is crucial. If a bunch of people play this and really enjoy it, then hopefully it does well.
That's a good point. You know, we talk about learning from our mistakes, and as Christians, we recognize that we are not above making mistakes. I know I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm personally aware of several mistakes this man has made.
Hey, you know,
Saying just
that was just today.
I'm just kidding. It was just 10 minutes ago. No, that's just messing around. We know that we are not above making mistakes, right? And so the goal then is to learn from the mistakes we make, so that we, one, don't make the same mistake again, and two, we're less likely to make similar mistakes. You know, just learning from that experience and being able to grow as an individual. I'm reminded of a verse in Proverbs where, starting in verse 16, where it says, "For a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again." I'm going to pause right there for a second, because notice that a righteous man falling does not make him unrighteous. And that's important to remember. For a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in time of calamity. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and do not let your heart be glad when he stumbles, or the Lord will see it and be displeased. So not only are we supposed to learn from our mistakes, but we are supposed to give other people the opportunity to learn from theirs. There's grace there, this opportunity of saying, yes, you made a mistake, all right, but I'm not going to just throw you out with the garbage. I believe that you have the ability to learn from that. Now, we're talking about a large corporation here, and if they have the ability to learn from their mistakes, but it does take a lot for me to say, I'm done with you when it comes to a publisher, a video game studio, and I don't think I'm done yet with EA. Now, if this game bombs, it's going to be really hard for me to trust them with anything going forward, and already, like I said, I didn't pre-order Anthem, and I don't plan on pre-ordering it. Because I want to see what people say when it comes out. I want to spend my money wisely and give my money to things that I think are worth it. And so when it comes to learning from our mistakes and giving other people the chance to learn from theirs, what are some experiences that you guys have in that area?
Well, I think for me personally, like, you know, we're on this journey called life on this planet, and
Is that what it's called?
we are. Well,
Oh my gosh.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's helpful.
And we are
should
bound
trademark
to say things that we don't always mean, to have our emotions flare up, to do things that we look back and say, don't. We go, oh man, that was not the wisest decision I've ever made in my life. But what's so cool is, like, part of the Christian faith, I'd say one of the biggest parts of Christian faith, if not the biggest, is God's grace for us, just like his furious love, as you brought up for the meeting, just his furious love that he's willing to say, even in the midst of you falling back, I'm still there to scoop you back up, and the grace is still there. And as we adopt that to our own hearts and expand that to other people, we can look at people and actually see their worth, and we can look at companies and see their worth in a new way, because we're not just judging them by their works, but we're thinking about the talent behind it. We're thinking about all the creative team behind Anthem. We're thinking about the creative people behind the promoting. All these people are actually literally putting hours of their life, some of them 70 hours, 80 hours a week. Their family lives are suffering because of this. Now, you know, there's a lot of things there, but I guess the point is like, for me, it's like what the word says, like Jesus says, like, do not take, or at least it's like a summation. And I wish I didn't read the verse, but the point is, like, he's like, do like not take his kindness and grace for approval. It does not mean that just because his grace is there, it does not mean that we're free to do whatever we want to do, because there's things that he's not going to approve of. The same that if I walked up to John and slapped him in the face, he may not approve of that. He may forgive me, but if I keep on doing that, he's eventually going to probably get a little agitated. So
a little agitated.
when we have this relationship with God, it's just that. It's a relationship, and similar to like a man who's wed to a woman, or vice versa. There's almost vows you say, like when I say I give my life to you, that's almost like a marriage vow with Christ in a sense. And we have to uphold those vows, and the truth of the matter is that he's faithful when we are not faithful. So even those moments where we sin or fall, he's there to pick us up. So he is like the one who wears the pants, so to say, in the relationship. I know if I had to say it that way. Like he's the one who is there to scoop us up.
I think you just said it.
Yeah, that's what I said. So anyway, obviously I know it's like trying to long-winded deal, but I think that it is important that we not just learn from our mistakes, but we have the grace to forgive ourselves what we've done, and also to forgive those around us. And you actually hold on to a lot more peace that way in your own personal life when you're not trying to hold on to your own grudges or trying to hold on to someone else's problems.
That's really good. I want to take part of what you said, that don't mistake his kindness and grace for approval. And I think that is something that we as Christians can remember when we're interacting with each other and with people who aren't Christians, that we can still be kind and we can still show grace to people who are doing things we disagree with, and it doesn't mean that we approve of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But just because we disapprove of what they're doing doesn't mean we can't show them kindness and we can't show them grace.
Yeah.
Life is full of nuance, it's full of complexity, and we have the opportunity to love people, to be Christ to them, to walk with them through life and care for them. It doesn't mean we approve of everything that they do. I don't think any of us could approve of everything anyone did, but we can still be kind to them, and we can still show grace to them. That's a fantastic point.
I think those are great points, and I like how both of you kind of mentioned there are developers, there are real people behind this game, and I think they want their game to succeed. They're working really
for
hard.
sure.
And so we're rooting for them, and that if they do make a mistake, they can learn from it. They don't get so distraught they just quit and leave. We don't want that to happen. And I bring that point up because I think we need to show the same grace towards ourselves. Again, sometimes we make mistakes, we do horrible things. We're like, oh, why did I do that? And we can spend the whole day just getting down on ourselves. And we need God's grace in our lives. We need God's grace because we're not perfect, because we do make mistakes. And we need to remember God's grace can cover that if we bring that to Him. And so we should also show a little grace to ourselves at times. Excuse me. Sometimes we go through difficult times. Sometimes those difficult times are caused by the choices we make. But one of my favorite passages in the Bible is James 1:2-4, and it says, count it joy when you face trials, because if you allow that trial to play out, you can actually learn from it, and God will use it to grow you. And so the next time you make a mistake, I make a mistake, we make a mistake, give yourself some time to grow, to learn from that mistake, because God doesn't want to beat you down for it. He wants you to learn and grow and share that same grace with yourself and with others as well.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing around the table is there is the ability for us to learn from our mistakes. And so we need to be able to be humble enough to recognize we've made a mistake and wise enough to learn from it. And then we also have to give people the chance to learn from their mistakes.
EA.
Yeah. And I think like grace is my last little point, but grace is like a tool to be transformed as like when there was like the Judeo law in the Old Testament, whenever you failed and you committed a sin, and there was over 600 laws, something had to die in place of you, whether it be a lamb or a dove. You guys can read about this in the Old Testament, because that was the price of it.
Serious.
And there was grace there, but there was a heavy price. Now Jesus paid a heavy price for us, so we could have that grace to be transformed. Like, it is not a tool to be abused, but it's a tool for us to be transformed to look more like Him, and that's a very powerful thing. So as we go into our prayer time, then we can pray like, Lord, like, give me the grace to walk like you walk, to love like you love, to see what you see. Like, Lord, transform me with your grace. I'm not here to use your grace to get what I want. If I was here to get what I want, then I probably would not be on this faith walk, because it's sometimes hard to us. But there's so much joy, and there's so much like love there, and there's true change, which is a rare thing in the outside world, at least in my opinion. So, at least from what I've witnessed in my own personal life.
That's a good point, Joel. Thank you very much. Thank you, Derrick, Joel, for joining me as we talk about Anthem and BioWare and EA and all this craziness. Hopefully, by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have played the game some more, and we'll find out it was fantastic. EA has learned from their mistakes, and a little bit of our faith in the gaming industry has been restored.
We're rooting
Hope
for you.
and faith.
Hope and faith. Until next
Through
time,
the creative arts.
have a good week.
From how you look, or what they say, like a lion runs wild through the wilderness. From showing off a living faith, like the eagles flying high, dancing with the air. There's breath in your lungs, there's breath in your lungs. So God, take this mask away. You see, won't let you